Hello everyone, this is Tavat Times. My dear YouTube frogs, I will do a full comparison between Genshin Impact and Tower of Fantasy, and the reason I am making this video is because this is the #1 question on everyone's mind: which game is better? And as a veteran who played both games since the launch, I think I have the credibility to do this comparison. Now without further ado, let's get started. First, I will do this comparison based on 10 points that will affect me as a player and make me want to play the game or not. So let's start with our first point, the graphics. Both games have an amazing graphics from the characters to the world, but Genshin Impact graphics looks more polished and more rich compared to Tower of Fantasy. As for the music, Tower of Fantasy music is really good, but you can't compare it to Genshin Impact, because Genshin Impact have one of, if not the best music I have ever heard, and no one can deny that. As for the story, both games have a good plot and a good story, but the difference is that Genshin Impact story have more depth and very interesting lore behind it, while Tower of Fantasy have a straightforward and generic plot. Now for the combat, systems and exploration. Even though the combat feels a bit junky on Tower of Fantasy, but it's a 100 times more fun than Genshin Impact. Also it have more depth and more freedom. As for the systems, this one will also go for Tower of Fantasy, because I need an entire video just to cover how much systems Tower of Fantasy have over Genshin Impact, like more endgame character progression systems, or the character creator, or the gadgets, or the mimicry system, and many more. And for the exploration, both games kinda have the same exploration aspects, but in Tower of Fantasy, you have mounts, double jump, dash through the air. You feel like you have more freedom over your character, so this one will also go for Tower of Fantasy. And now, last but not least, we have gacha, events, co-op, and endgame. Now let's start with the gacha. Even without comparison, Genshin Impact gacha is really bad, because in the worst luck conditions, you need 180 pulls in Genshin Impact to get your desired character. As for Tower of Fantasy, you need only 80, and the good thing about Tower of Fantasy gacha is that the pity does not reset, so you can get a 5-star character at 79 pull, and you will still get another one guaranteed at 80 pull, and it's one of the best gacha system I have ever seen in a gacha game. Now for the events. The events are quite similar: do this thing to get this reward. But Tower of Fantasy is way more generous than Genshin Impact. As for the co-op, well, Tower of Fantasy is an MMO that have guilds, raids, open world events. As for Genshin Impact, it's just a single player game with a co-op feature, and it's not even mandatory, so yeah, Tower of Fantasy again. And now, the last thing, and the most important thing of all, the end game. Well, Tower of Fantasy have raids, PvP, Endless Abyss, and many more. As for Genshin Impact endgame, there is none. Yes, there is no endgame in Genshin Impact. Enough said, I guess. And now who is the winner after all of this? Well, you know it, me know it, and everybody know it, that the true winner is you. Yes, you my dear frogs, who will have the chance to enjoy these two beautiful games that are completely different. One is a single-player story-driven game with beautiful scenes and amazing music, and the other one is an MMO game focused more on systems, endgame, and multiplayer aspects. And that's it for the video, my dear frogs, but as always I really love to hear your opinions. Thank you everybody for watching, and see you in the next video. Goodbye everyone.